to do it again with TimeKeeper. So on the TimeKeeper aspect, so in case there's first-time listeners that don't know anything about TimeKeeper, its purpose is a means of electronically tracking timesheets. This system can capture time logged against a particular project doing particular activities. It can also record per diems, equipment usage. Employees can use it for requesting schedule changes or PTO. And it's all seamlessly integrated into payroll. So some of our goals with this is we want to make sure it's simple to use, little or no training required for our users. We want it to be a responsive design so it works well on smartphones. Any supervisors on the call have probably had that moment where they've had to approve timesheets on a Monday morning, but they're not near their computer. It's really handy to be able to use your phone to do it. We wanted a consistent process, same process and reports from team to team. So no more of this out in the Wild West, everyone kind of home brewing their own solutions. And then finally, we want it to be powerful. Tools for reporting and analysis that go well beyond just a timesheet. So some of our usage metrics on this, so we have 284 employees that are using TimeKeeper to track their weekly timesheets. 218 of those timesheets are processed into payroll automatically, so there's no overhead administrative costs of keying that information into a system and then having to double check the numbers as being accurate. And then finally, 148 of those timesheets are being used in an invoicing process. So what I mean by that is an automated extraction of data from TimeKeeper and fed into an invoicing template. We're trying to grow all three of these numbers, and a lot of them are related to each other, so we can get more TimeKeeper users as long as we can streamline the invoicing. And then we can process more into payroll when we handle the invoicing with more hands-on versus using clerical aid over at the corporate office. Some highlights is some improvements that are identified by early adopters. So one set of users requested that we have a means for their employees to be able to add themselves to projects. So we added this mechanism where you can search projects. You could enter a contract ID or name or supervisors, and it'll give you a list of matching projects, so then they can pick it and add themselves to the project. The ability to default certain information based on the employee. So for example, job class information is now automatically derived on when you set up a project. You can assign it job classes, and then you can associate those job classes to employees that are assigned to the project. And the ability to share save filters. So TimeKeeper has a pretty nice mechanism where you can construct your own filter, then you can save that filter and share it with other members of your team, so that way they don't have to recreate the same filters. Very handy for the invoicing automation and payroll integrations. Various data integrity protections and features have been added. For example, valid SAP equipment number. So we can validate that the SAP equipment ID entered in TimeKeeper actually corresponds to an SAP equipment ID tracked at a corporate level. We can give warnings for holiday hours when they're unexpected. So we found that some users were not doing the PTO requests, and instead just recording those times as holiday hours and then in the notes adding it as PTO. So we have warnings in place now where if the system doesn't expect there to be holidays, it'll alert the supervisor during the approval. And then finally, protections against erroneous project information. So do we have duplicate locations added to a project or an invalid contract number for SAP? We've done a lot of work towards streamlining invoicing. So TimeKeeper has a nice mechanism where you can extract all the data in an easy external format like Excel. And then we can feed that data into a template. Right now, most of these templates are built using Google Sheets. And the advantage of this is then it just automates the production of the information necessary for the invoice. So that way the project coordinator, it's just a simple copy paste into that template, and all these all these Google Sheet workbooks update. So for our most complex client, there's like 35 workbooks that are being built off of the raw data from TimeKeeper. That person doesn't need to do anything other than bring in the data, and everything populates automatically. Another example of one of those, this would be more of a day-by-day listing total hours for the team. And then one more, this should look familiar to anyone that's seen a lot of our invoicing, but again, this idea of being able to produce a ready, print-friendly invoice just by taking the extract from TimeKeeper and pasting it into Google Sheets and then customizing those reports for the way that the customer specifies we need to submit the information. We're also working on crew sheets. So the idea of being able to construct a crew and then have a foreman and then different employees as members of that crew, different pieces of equipment as parts of that crew. When the crew foreman then goes to add activities against that crew sheet, they're able to choose which members of the crew were present for that activity. And then we end up with this consolidated crew sheet where all the activities are listed, including the people that were involved in those activities. And what this does is just automates the generation of the timesheets for those individual employees so they can get properly paid through payroll. One of the other goals of the project is to have tighter integration with production data. So we feel like if we can take the information that's being captured in TimeKeeper and relate that against the production data stored in our TreeKeeper 8 platform, then that opens up a lot of opportunities for us. So for example, the ability to do labor costs in real time against lump sum projects or unit price projects so you can quickly identify if the project's turning into a stinker or not. Correlations of activity versus labor time. So the idea of being able to say, all right, well, we bid to do this type of work. We bid this many hours, but when we look back at it, we're spending this many hours doing field inspections and this many hours doing QA. And so we can then make smarter bids moving forward to make sure that we're capturing those some of those lost hours to like QA and quality checking, make sure that we can correlate that time against actual field services. And then we also feel this makes this a much more marketable product for DRG customers. So we have a lot of utilities that depend on the MyRokeeper system for managing their contractors. And if their contractors are on time and material projects and they can record their time in TimeKeeper, then we can start building bridges between MyRokeeper to pull that raw data from TimeKeeper into the system. So again, points of contacts. Is TimeKeeper a good fit for your project? Do you need technical support using TimeKeeper? Are you using TimeKeeper currently and you don't like your invoicing process and you want to streamline it? Don Hunsinger has been excellent in helping me build a lot of these sophisticated sheets that I shared with you. You could always reach out to me. I will definitely give you good advice on if TimeKeeper is a good fit, because there are some projects where it's just not a fit yet. And then there's also a Google Plus community. So there's a community that exists where all of our TimeKeeper users are made members. About every 3 to 6 months, I go through the supervisors and TimeKeeper, cross-reference it with the members in the community and invite people to be on that community in case they aren't. But it's a good opportunity for TimeKeeper users to give us feedback on what we need to be working on, as well as help each other for how to, some of the trickier how to solve problems. All right. Thanks again for your time. Let's move on to resources.